for me.
Right.
I've fallen into that as well. Just, as I'm just breaking into ghostwriting, I saw other
Mm-hmm.
ghostwriters who got in. I'm like, well, if I do what they did, I'll get in with
Right.
the same kind of learning curve. But,
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to admit I learned very slowly. So it took
Right.
longer.
Right.
Yeah, it took longer to. The Career Challenges Podcast, a collection of stories about overcoming professional hurdles and learning lessons the hard way. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Kyle Werkerly, certified ghostwriter. So, the Career Challenges Podcast, and I am joined by Lorena Tomasini. And Lorena, you're out of Miami, that's correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you're the third guest I've had from the Miami area. Either Fort
Oh,
Lauderdale,
well, that's good.
Miami. So yeah, a lot of people from Miami. This is a very, very good place, I guess, to find guests.
We're very friendly.
Yes, of course. And from what I understand, a lot of people like to go to Miami. I've never been to Miami myself, so I can't say with any real surety. But I take it's a very, very lovely place to be most of the year.
It is, yeah. It is summer year round for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be a good or a bad thing, depending.
Yeah. So for me, I'd probably have to wear a lot of sunscreen. I burn very easily.
Right.
Yeah. So every morning I have to put on sunscreen. But
There you
what is your business officially? You're the owner of an insurance agency?
Correct. I'm the owner of Malm, MALM,
Mm-hmm.
Life and Health Insurance Agency. We're here in Miami, Florida, like we mentioned, and so I work together with my mom, and we help families and other business owners with their financial protection.
Financial protection. Awesome. So what does that entail exactly, financial protection?
Sure. So financial protection is basically making sure that people's incomes are replaced in case of like passing away or something such as a critical illness like cancer, heart attack, stroke, or even a chronic illness where people can't do activities of daily living. So it's really about having policies in place that if any of those scenarios were to happen, people can have peace of mind that they know where they can get money from and not have to depend on like a GoFundMe page or their savings that maybe they had for something else in mind.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And you've been doing this about 8 years, correct?
Yeah, we started our business in 2011, but I have been licensed since 2006, and my mom a lot longer.
Yes, I'm sure. So where were you working before you started at Malm?
Before that, what did I do? I worked at a call center. I used to sell like phones over the phone. Apparently, I have a good phone voice. I did pretty good on that. And I also worked at a law firm, and I worked for a startup that I did marketing for the startup, and it was this vehicle for people that have disabilities, like that need a wheelchair, so they could actually be on the passenger side of the vehicle instead of like somewhere else,
I see.
So that's what I did before.
Cool. Yeah, I worked at a startup as well, but I worked in their marketing department for the startup. I wasn't actually on the phones. It was for calling, and they were selling internet bundles, and it was really cool. It was a good idea. And I got up into their marketing because they really needed somebody to write a lot of copy for their web pages. So, so I found that somewhat ironic. You worked in a call center, and I was doing a startup with the call center. Anyway,
there you go.
So what prompted you to get into insurance?
Sure. So I was studying finance here at FIU, and it was during the time when the stock market was crashing. And back then I thought, I wanted to be a stockbroker. I don't know why, because now I see things on TV and it's like people screaming. And, I don't think I would be cut out for that. But regardless, the stock market was crashing, and I thought, man, maybe that's not something I really want to do because that just seems like a lot like a very stressful job, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not something you can really control.
Sure.
So I was looking for something to do. My mom needed an appointment setter. I think like over the summer. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, well, I could help you set appointments. I had experience in the call center, so I knew how to use the phones. And the one day I decided to go with her to see what it was that I was setting up these appointments for. Get more, I guess, like on the job training,
Mm-hmm.
as you can say it.
Yeah.
And I thought that what she did was good. It was actually helping people, and it was filling out paperwork. So I figured, well, that's something I could do as well. Um, and it also provided flexibility in my schedule, which I kind of needed for school because I was going to school full time as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, so yeah, so I just got my license and I stuck with doing insurance. In between that, I did have some other jobs, because insurance can be a commission based, so it depends, how things are going. Um, but yeah, I really like what I do. I like helping people, and I knew I would never be like a cop or a nurse or a
Mm-hmm.
doctor or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, so it sounds insurance sometimes um people see it as, oh, it's just a sales job, but
Mm-hmm.
it really isn't. For me, it's more about really helping people have that peace of mind if something does happen,
Yeah.
right? That they
Definitely.
can know, well, I know I have this policy in place there for me.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we insure a whole bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Your car, your phone. I think sometimes people insure their phones more than themselves,
Yeah.
and our ability to work and be able to provide that income is really valuable. And if that gets taken away for any reason,
Mm.
um, it's good to know that you have something backing you up. Hmm.
Definitely. Definitely. So to get started in insurance, were you kind of working off of your mom's referrals, or were you doing more cold calling?
Yeah, at the time we were working with an agency that provided us with leads.
Mm-hmm.
So these were like new homeowners or people that refinance their mortgage. Um, and then once somebody buys a house or refinances the mortgage, they get a whole bunch of letters in the mail about mortgage protection, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really just protecting the mortgage if something happens to the homeowners, to be able to pay off the mortgage if something happens to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so then that's what we were really doing a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a life insurance policy, right, for the same amount of the mortgage, and then people would put their spouse or another family member as the beneficiary
Mm-hmm.
to be able to pay off the mortgage if they pass away or something else happens. Um, and that was going really good for a few years until that whole housing crash happened and people
Yes.
stopped buying houses as much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so that's how we got started. At least
Awesome.
myself. Hmm.
Cool. So you said you had a very nice phone voice. You worked in a call center and you were making calls
Hmm.
in your mother's office. So were you getting most of your business through calls, or did you actually have to go and talk to people face to face?
Um, so mainly through phone calls
Mm-hmm.
was what I was doing, calling those leads and then referrals from those leads as well, like asking people
Mm-hmm.
for referrals. I have tried doing the face to face, like going to businesses and talking to the business owner, but I find that that's not really my way of getting clients. Just because I don't like walking up to a business and like, here I'm here to sell you insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have done at businesses through like seminars where I talk to them about health insurance or life insurance, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit different, and it's not as much of a cold call. Hmm.
Yeah. And so with the
Yeah.
seminars, are you finding it's you're kind of warming them up with the seminar. You're not just walking straight up and saying, "Hey, would you like to buy insurance?" This way, they see you more
Exactly.
as like an ally and not just somebody pitching them an idea.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of insurance talk is not really about the product or,
Mm-hmm.
the benefits. A lot of people think it is, but it's really more about education
Mm-hmm.
um, for the client, because a lot of times people have certain ideas about what insurance is, and the reality a lot of times is very different.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So it sounds like what really works for you is, talking to people on the phone or doing more of that education
Right.
approach. Yeah. So
hmm
I'm just curious, do you have a sales script for when you do these calls or these seminars?
I've been doing this so long that a lot of it is more like improvised. I'll just do maybe like an outline of what I want to cover
Mm-hmm.
so that I don't forget something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but not really. I mean, it's just something that a sales script does help, especially if you're starting out. But then I always like to like tailor that to my personality and make it more personable than hi, Mr. Smith, this is
Mm-hmm.
Lorena from Mom,
Yeah,
right? That type of stuff.
true.
But like everything, I think everything in life is being persistent at something
Mm-hmm.
until it becomes second nature,
True.
um, where I don't even think I'm using a sales script, and then I realize I've been pretty much saying the same thing, um, maybe in different ways, but right,
Mm-hmm.
it's similar. hmm
Awesome. Well, part of the reason I asked that is I recently finished The Introvert's Edge by Matthew Pollard, and it's his story about how he became successful as a salesperson, but he was an introvert, and it was hard for him really to strike
hmm
up conversations with people he didn't really know.
Right.
Me being an introvert as well, it's hard for me to really walk into a room and just start work on the room, as they would say. But
Uh
his
huh.
big thing was, create a sales script. And so I'm always
Yes.
curious now when I speak with other people who, selling is a big part of what they do. Do
hmm
they use a sales script? And I'm just wondering, have you run into that as well? Like other people that's their thing is they always have that sales script ready to go.
I mean, yeah, I have ran into other people that, they don't have that sales script in front of them. They can't call somebody,
Hmm.
and to be honest, I also am an introvert, which is why,
Yeah.
I don't like walking up to businesses and that
Mhm.
type of stuff. Um, but yes, sales scripts I think are great, and it's a good foundation to start off, I think more for people that are new. It doesn't matter what you sell, right? Whether you're selling
Mhm.
insurance or shoes or cars or whatever it might be. It's
Mhm.
definitely good to have like, okay, now I should say this. Now I should ask for what do they call it? Like a temporary close, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
do you agree, right?
Yeah. A
All that
trial
stuff
close,
because
I think
obviously
they mentioned. Yeah.
a trial close. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah,
Mhm.
because all that stuff does help, in actually getting sales, right? Because that's the point. It's not just let's have a conversation because that's not going to lead anywhere, you know.
No. True.
Mhm.
True. And so at first when I'm, in other jobs where I had to sell something, it was always about, well, the product does this, this, and this is why you need it.
Mhm.
But when I was getting into ghostwriting, it became more about what was important to the author because I'm helping them write books. And so
Right.
the introvert's edge really helped me focus on what I should be saying instead of, well, with a book you can do X, Y, and Z, which obviously, they want to know about that, but there's so much more that goes on with writing a book. And so
Mhm.
what I'm trying to get at, I guess, that long question here, sorry about that,
That's
that
fine.
long setup is figuring out what truly matters in talking to potential clients. And so for you, what was that process of finding what truly mattered to your potential clients?
That's a great question, Kyle. I think for me it was really developing something that I call a financial protection review,
Mm-hmm.
because I found myself asking people the same questions over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And these are questions that help me and the client identify like some of their pain points
Mm-hmm.
as far as what would their life look like if tomorrow they were diagnosed with like cancer, right?
Yeah.
What would that look like for the family? What would that look like financially? So it's just really asking these types of questions that put people in those scenarios, and then they can see a solution with my products. Because I think at the end of the day, benefits and features and all that stuff is great, but it's really about what it's really about what you do that. Let me see how I want to do this. It's really about what solutions those products provide, right? It's not about the bells and whistles and all that stuff, but it's really about that, what solution, whether it's insurance or a book, right? If I want to read a book, I don't want to read, about how they made the book, or if it's funny, or if it's this and that. I want to know, I think people always are looking for what's in it for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. It's also human nature. So.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. But I think a lot of times in sales, people forget that, and they're just, mine is the best, and it can do everything, when people don't really care about that at the end of the day.
Would you like to be a guest on the Career Challenges podcast? Visit careerchallengespodcast.com to find out how. And while you're there, listen to all available episodes and subscribe through Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and CastBox. More outlets are coming soon. The Career Challenges podcast is produced by me, Kyle Weckerly, and I'm a certified ghostwriter. A little bit more about that. I work almost exclusively with business authors. I've worked with authors who are coaches, consultants, mentors, speakers, some high-ticket salespeople, C-level executives, and of course, business owners. My authors have worked for USAA, Vistage, Booz Allen Hamilton, Austin Technology Council, and the John Maxwell team. They want to write a book, and they want that book to help them expand their business. See, with a book in hand, they're able to market their expertise, or secure more speaking gigs, or promote their company, or all three, or maybe even more than that. They're not out to write a bestseller, though that would be nice. Instead, they have years of knowledge and experience, and sorting it out will be no easy task. More importantly, they want all that knowledge and experience to be an engaging read. To learn more about how you can become an author, visit WeckerlyWriter.com. That's WeckerlyWriter.com, and schedule a consultation today. And now, back to the Career Challenges podcast. What exactly goes into a financial protection plan? Like, how do you assess what they need and then provide, I guess, whatever the gaps are?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the review that I provide, which is free, I just ask them, a series of questions about if they have this protected, if they have that protected, and like I mentioned, how would that look like? And then from there, I just gather that information, and then usually a lot of what I do is income protection, which is basically if somebody makes, I don't know, let's say $50,000 a year. Well, if that $50,000 is no longer there, then we need to figure out how to replace that income, and not just for 1 year, because obviously that's not enough money, right? We usually do then like a multiple of like 5 years or 10 years. And then from there, we decide what type of product would be the best for their scenario, right? Everything that I do is personalized, because no two families are the same. So I do spend a lot of time in figuring out what would be the best solution for that family.
Has anyone come up to you and said, well, I want exactly what the Smiths had? And you assess and you're like, well, you don't need that kind of coverage. How do you go about kind of, either enlightening them or just showing them, okay, there's options out there that are better?
Right. So that's definitely something I see a lot when I'm doing health insurance, because they will call me and say, oh, but my friend has this policy and they make the same as me, but they're paying a lot less, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that there is just, again, educating the client that, well, your friend's scenario might be different because we don't know how many people live in the household and their income. So for like health insurance, a lot of things vary based on those scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for life insurance, um, personally, I'm very big on keeping privacy of my clients. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't share anything about if my client has this policy or that policy. But if somebody brings it up, I, you know, I skirt my way around that with saying that, for privacy reasons, I can't share what they
Mm-hmm.
have. But let's see what what we can do for you, and I'll tell them the same thing because um, no two families' needs are the same, you know.
Definitely.
Um, but yeah, but people definitely like to compare, like they say, the Joneses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Because you always wonder when you're in that line of work and you're helping people with these financial protection plans, because some people will assume, oh well, they got that, so that's going to work exactly the same for me.
right.
I've fallen into that as well. Just as I'm just breaking into ghostwriting, I saw other
Mhm.
ghostwriters who got in. I'm like, well, if I do what they did, I'll get in with
Right.
the same kind of learning curve. But
Mhm.
I'll have to admit, I learned very slowly. It took
Right.
longer.
Right.
Yeah, it took longer to get there than I wanted
Yeah.
to. But that's not bad.
And,
Just got to be
and
patient.
and I mean, with like financial protection programs like life insurance, for example,
Hmm.
you could be the same age as somebody else, but there's a whole bunch of factors that go into like what people pay a month.
Hmm.
Not just the death benefit amount, but also like maybe you added a rider that the other person didn't. Maybe there's some health issues that we need to look at, right? That would make maybe your policy more costly than the other person. So
Hmm.
that's why no two people are the same, you know?
Hmm. Awesome. So what if somebody came up to you and said, um, I really like what you're doing. I think it's cool that you're helping people. I love the way you help people. How do I do what you do?
Oh, that's a great question. So to do what I do is not that hard. You need to study and yeah, here in Florida, there's different licenses you can get, but like the one I have is like the 215
Hmm.
license, which covers life, health, and annuities. And then you can do the course online nowadays, and I did it a long time ago, so that wasn't available.
Hmm.
But you can do the course online, or you can do the course in person. I think it takes like a week or two to do the course, and then you need to pass a state exam, and then from there, get contracted with the different companies, different insurance companies.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's basically it. It's not that complicated to do. The hardest part is, yeah, when you're starting out, is who do you talk to? You don't want to go. Um, a lot of people like to start calling on their friends and family, and that's good to maybe practice your presentation and things like that. But that's definitely not going to be a good way to run a business
Yeah.
at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
A
Like
sustainable.
anything.
Yeah. Sustainable business plan. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Like if you're a ghostwriter, right? Who
Hmm.
are you gonna ghostwrite for? Not your friends and family, right?
Yeah.
Um,
They have great stories, and I know this
I'm
sounds
sure.
bad, but they couldn't afford me.
Right. But I
Yeah.
think it also goes down to like setting boundaries and not like blurring lines, let's say.
Mhm.
If they're your friends, they're your friends, and maybe you can get an opinion from them. But once business is involved, things can get a little bit tricky there.
Mhm. Definitely. So, what are some examples of out of the box prospecting?
Sure. Out of the box prospecting is a
Yeah.
good question. Let me see. What have I done? So like out of the box prospecting would be like health fairs
Mhm.
where you can set up a table and then talk to people there about financial protection. We've done it at a whole bunch of different places, not just health fairs, but businesses and things like that. Um, and just talking to a lot of people. Networking is one of them. I'm not a big fan of going to networking events, but I push myself to go every now and then to meet new people. Definitely asking for referrals is a good way to go about it, and sending thank you cards and Christmas cards and all that stuff. People really like.
Definitely. I was going to mention I'd read in a book about these guys who had they would go to networking events, but they would wear bright orange hats, and they would say we can make you, or we can activate your gravity or something. Just ask me how.
Right.
Have you seen people do that?
No, I haven't. No, we haven't seen that yet. But it's like everything. It's all about attention. And so I've also made like videos and been on podcasts, different things, to get the word out about what I do.
Oh, so I'm curious, since you're on my podcast, how many podcasts have you been on yourself?
I've only been on about two podcasts besides yours, so not many.
Awesome. Do you like the experience so far?
Yeah, I think it's a great way for people to get to know who I am and my personality, and see that I'm not, like a pushy salesperson maybe trying to shove something down someone's throat.
Yeah, because the salesman or the salesperson moniker has really, it's taken on this cliche, this stereotype, and a lot of salespeople aren't like that, and I'm guilty of this myself. When somebody knocks on my door to sell something, automatically I'm like, nope, I am not interested.
Right.
I don't care what it is you're selling. Just get off my front porch.
Exactly. Yeah, now it's like those ring doorbells, now it's like you can just look at it on your phone and be like, I'm not even getting up,
Yeah.
So
I need to do that myself. I need to get one of those for my house.
Yeah.
So awesome. So within your business, what is, I guess, your favorite part of the whole process?
My favorite part of the whole process, I guess it's really the education part, because it entails a big part of my process, really, to make sure that they're understanding why they need this protection, and what it provides for them. Because the rest of it is not that hard, right? Filling out an application, or that's basically it. The educational part is definitely the most fun for me.
Yeah. I also want to ask, because you talk to a lot of people on a daily basis, and you're trying to educate them, what is kind of your worst client experience? I mean, obviously you don't have to use names or give out details, but what is it that it can't get any worse than this person?
That's a good question. So I've been able to transition my business to be completely digital. So I do everything over the phone or on the computer with my clients. But this has only been something that I've changed in like the past year and a half. And but before that, I would be like they say, a road warrior. Going to people's houses and that type of stuff. Definitely, like, one of the worst experiences would be, besides getting stood up when you confirm appointments. That's the worst, driving an hour. Here in Miami, you might say, oh, it's 10 miles away, but it could take you like an hour just with traffic alone.
Oh, yeah. We get that in San Antonio, too.
I'm sure. So definitely getting stood up, but I would say like one of the worst experiences was, this person that was very skeptical about what I was saying. And it would just be like, their objections would not even be like a normal objection of like, oh, I can't afford it, or let me think about it. It would just be like, how do you know this is true? or things like that, where it's like, oh my goodness, like they're stuck in that mindset of this isn't real what I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely way too much for me
Yeah.
to deal with.
Do you run into those people a lot, or is that more once or twice a year you come across a person like that?
I would say like, yeah, like it's not something every day that I'm running across,
Mm-hmm.
But it does happen, a few here or there, like everything else.
Yeah, every now and then. Every now and then. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and this just happened this weekend, and it was an awesome story. But I was going to have a call with a potential client, and the guy stood me up, and I was
Uh-huh.
so mad about it that I immediately went onto social media and blocked him on all my social media stuff,
Oh no.
because
Uh-huh.
that's how he had reached out to me, was through social media.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm part of this other group on Facebook, and I'm reading through some posts, and I see his name, and at first I'm like, that's not the same guy, is it? And it was one of
Mhm.
those weird names that you don't really
Right.
see a lot. And I'm reading the comments, and he's trolling the group. And I'm
Oh
like, A,
no.
how did you get in the group? And then B,
Right.
why are you trolling it? Because it's a
Yeah.
privilege to be in this group. I mean, I know a lot of groups
Mhm.
are sometimes just thrown together ad hoc, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they don't really
Mhm.
serve a purpose. But this guy was, he was just being so rude and, trying to
Mhm.
steal clients. And so
Mm.
the last comment on that thread was, I've screenshot this whole conversation. I've
Right.
been in contact with his company, and I've talked to their ethics division, and
Mhm.
I've handed that off. And I was like, yes, there is justice in the world. So this
Right.
jerk who had ghosted me is, and I don't know if anything's happened at his company, but it's good to know that his bad attitude had come around to get him. And so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really enjoyed
So
that.
like one thing I've definitely learned about getting stood up,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially when I first started out, like I was 19, 20 back then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, instead of getting upset about it, I would actually be happy when somebody would stand me up, because about 7 out of 10 times those people that stood me up, if I was able to reschedule their appointment, they would actually end up buying. And I think part of it is because they felt bad, right? That they had stood me up. I would bring it up like, oh man, I passed by and I was there, and they're like, oh, I feel horrible, blah blah blah. So then, when they would reschedule,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, yeah, about 7 out of 10 would buy. And even the same now when it's virtual. If somebody stands me up, for me, it's fine. I'll just do something else with that time
Mm-hmm.
and reschedule them later. Um, yeah, I've learned not to get upset over things that I can't really control.
Sure.
And I'm just doing my part, scheduling the appointment or whatever it might be. And it's up to them to show.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. Well, you're a better person than I am. I was quite upset at this guy, and then
No,
just
and it makes sense. I'm not gonna say that some days I feel like throwing my computer, but like everything, take 5 minutes.
yeah, definitely. And so it was good to see too that his personality was like, well, maybe I dodged a bullet there. Maybe he was really doing me a favor by not showing up for our call. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There you go.
awesome.
Mhm.
And so you not only sell financial protection plans and insurance for families, you are also
Mhm.
a podcast host as well.
That is correct. Yeah, I started a podcast back in March. It's called 12-Minute Talks, where what I do is I interview other business owners and entrepreneurs and salespeople
Mm-hmm.
about what it is that they do, and it's really about what do they help others solve
Mm-hmm.
with their products and services.
All right. And so how long have you been doing that?
Since March,
Since
so a
March.
few months.
All
Hmm.
right. Yeah, you've been at this a lot longer than I have. I finally was getting my act together in April. I was able to
Right.
record my first 10 in May, and then I launched earlier this month, which is June 3rd. And so, yeah, so I
That's
finally
great.
got all that.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. So
Yeah.
I want to ask, what's your favorite part of podcasting, and then what was kind of your worst experience?
Of actually doing podcasts.
Yeah, doing podcasts.
Okay, yeah. I would say the most exciting part is getting to know what other people do,
Mm-hmm.
and more in detail, because a lot of times we have an idea of like what a web designer does, or a whole bunch of different fields.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's just exciting getting to know about what other people do. Um, and then I would say maybe the worst part would be, um, I don't know, because I like computer stuff too, so like I don't mind doing editing and like
Mm-hmm.
photos and all that stuff. But I guess it's more time consuming than I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be.
Yes,
So
it
it's
is.
almost like having a second job, that I'm not even getting paid for. But I think it's a good way to also expose what I do,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely provide value to the community.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's what I like too, is I really get to talk with people, from Miami. My
Hmm.
first guest was from Australia.
Okay.
Last week I talked with a web designer out of Italy, Stephanie Lattori.
Oh, nice.
And
Uh-huh.
Marty Viz was a guy out of Australia. I should mention these names as well, not just keep the name.
Right, that's fine.
But getting to talk with these people, and always the conversations are so much fun. And I do have a
Mhm.
list of talking points, but we always go off in different tangents, and that's what I love, is really having that conversation. And it feels more, I've said this before, but more like a conversation between people you know. It's not just, oh,
Mhm.
well, how are you today? How's the weather?
Right,
Did
right.
you
Or
did you
or
catch
like
them
or like
Yankees?
a lot, yeah. Or like a laundry list of what people do. Like that doesn't
Yeah,
interest me. Yeah.
no, it doesn't. But the thing that I really hated, it was the second time I interviewed him, Brian Benavides. We'd already done one. We had a great time, and he wanted to come back and talk some more. I said, great, let's set it up. And 5 minutes into the recording, my internet
Mhm.
just died. I don't know
Oh
what
no.
happened, and AT&T didn't come out to fix it. I don't know what's happening. It's working
Right.
now, but knock on wood, it's not going to break down again. Um, but just in the middle, it just gone, nothing, and I was so
Yeah.
frustrated and angry. And of course, I look like a complete unprofessional when that happens, and I was just like,
Yeah.
"Gotta
Yeah.
be kidding me!" So I was
Yeah. I
frustrated.
mean, the good thing of using Zoom is
Mm-hmm.
that you can use the app on your phone. So if
True.
that ever happens again, I don't know. Do you use an iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
iPhone. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know how you can connect like a microphone
Yeah,
to it, but like I use Android and I can connect
yeah.
stuff to it.
Yeah, I haven't
Um,
figured out how to get it to record on my phone, and that's the problem. I do have the
oh
app. I
yeah,
haven't figured out how to make it record. So if I could make
right.
it do that through my phone, that would definitely help out a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
Hmm.
it's possible.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So enough about technology and podcasting, but what's next for you and Malm Insurance?
Sure. So that's a good question. What's next for us? We're in June now.
Hmm.
Um, well, I do have a goal of helping about 1,000 families with financial protection.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if it will get that this year, but maybe between now and next year, that's the goal.
Hmm.
And yeah, we're gearing up as well for the health insurance, because that's from November 1st to December 15th that people can sign up for health insurance or change their plan. So we're very busy
Hmm.
during Thanksgiving and Christmas time, helping people with that as well. Hmm.
Awesome, awesome. So Lorena, if somebody wants to connect with you, where can they find you?
Good question. So they can reach out to me on my website, www.malmins.com,
Hmm.
or they can find me on Facebook, Lorena, Lorena. My
Hmm.
last name is Tomasini,
Hmm.
Tomasini, or they can just call me or text me 786-236-1792. business hours, not, like at 2 in the morning. That won't be fun.
Definitely. Yeah. So I'll make sure to put that also in the description for the podcast when it goes live. So they'll be able to find that as well with the episode whenever they decide to download that. So Lorena Tomasini, thank you so much for being on the Career Challenges podcast.
Thank you so much, Kyle. You've been a great interviewer and have asked very good questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that too. Thank you for listening to the Career Challenges podcast. Visit careerchallengespodcast.com to listen to more episodes and subscribe. And don't forget to schedule a consultation to talk about your book today by visiting weckerlywriter.com. That's WECKERLYWRITER.com.